Hey everyone, Eric Thurber here from Thurber Shots. And today we're going to talk about getting reported to the FAA, what to do if it happens and how to avoid it. So let's jump right in. Okay, so obviously we want to avoid being reported. And there's a few things we can do, right? First of all, let's make sure the flight's legal because a lot of legal flights do get reported as well. So if you give the FAA nothing to bite on, then they'll pretty much ignore the report. So make sure the flight's legal. If it's legal, you'll have nothing to worry about. Follow basic rules, keep it under 400 feet. Don't fly over bridges and traffic. The other thing I wanted to mention too is I've seen a lot online where people will get into arguments on forums, Reddit, whatever, and then somebody will report that person and it escalates. So something to maybe try to avoid. Okay, so what happens when you are reported? We just got to keep in mind by law, the FAA must address every report. If somebody calls in a report, FAA has to review it. Okay, the footage will be scrutinized for illegal activity. When they call to report something, usually they'll say, I believe this is illegal. And that's what the FAA is going to look at. And then from there, they'll determine whether or not it needs to be escalated. Okay, so what'll happen is basically someone from the FAA will scrutinize the footage, right? And that person is known as an FSDO from the Flight Standards District offices. For example, here in San Francisco, we have one in Oakland. They employ full-time staff whose jobs really is nothing but dealing with reported reports to the FAA for illegal flights. Okay, so if they do look at it and say, oh, this is questionable or I need to talk to you, and it becomes actionable, they will look to reach out to you, right? They'll try to find you through your social media or however else they can find you. They'll look to do that. They'll send you regular mail or they'll send you an email or they'll pick up a phone and call you, right? And they will want to talk to you directly about the flight in question. Okay, so I've been up through all of this, and I'm happy to just answer questions on it or go through it. That's kind of why I'm putting this together. Okay, so how to be prepared if you are reported or stopped in the field, right? And I've had this happen both, so I'll speak to it a little bit. At a minimum, make sure you have your trust certificate. If you haven't looked at it, I have another video that goes into what you need for Part 107 and trust. But at a minimum, you need your trust. If applicable, your Part 107. Ensure your drone is registered and it has the registration number labeled on the outside of the drone. This is a minimum requirement, right, by the FAA. You have to have it registered in Drone Zone. And then you need to put that registration number on the outside of the drone to make it easily identifiable. However, in my experience, they will still take the battery out and look inside at the registration number and make sure that it is legitimate. According to one officer I spoke with, a lot of people like to put a fake one on the outside for whatever reason. So, and then expect to spend 30 to 60 minutes answering questions, whether you're stopped in the field or if you are being on a phone call with the FAA. Just expect to take some time and talk with them about that footage. In fact, I even have a little video here. One of the times I was stopped, this happened to me during it was a TFR, and what happened is the NOTAMs weren't pushed down to the app, so I thought the TFR was lifted, but apparently it was not, or temporary flight restriction, which is a big no-no. You cannot fly during these. And what happened is the Secret Service and the local police undercover were on me within about 2 minutes of launching my drone. Basically what happens is if you fly around TFRs or big events like this, these guys are on hand. They're there and they're patrolling and they're looking for drones. They know who I was and where I was standing. They will find you. So the lesson there is don't fly during a TFR. I did do that. They were really cool about it because they realized that the NOTAMs weren't getting pushed to the app, so I was unaware of that. So here they are basically going through all of my stuff. They wanted, my ID and my Part 107, and they scrutinized it. They asked all kinds of questions, looked at my footage, all the things you would expect them to do. Okay. So basically they just want you to be compliant. So let's talk about, what they expect from this. So we've heard stories maybe about this guy, this Philly Drone Life guy, Michael, I can't quite pronounce his last name, Di Curioko, something to that effect. And he was fined a ton of money, right? So basically what was happening is he was out there in Philadelphia flying his drone, mostly a lot of illegal flights. I enjoyed watching the guy because he's just kind of nuts and off the wall. But you can't do a lot of what he was doing. And that what happened is the FAA did reach out to him. They sent him emails. They sent him regular snail mails, all official documentation saying, look, what you're doing is illegal. We need to talk to you. He ignored all of it. And he just kept pushing it to the side and saying, putting up YouTube videos going, how's my little drone going to hurt anybody? And I get all of that. But the reality is, man, if you do that, they're going to come after you. And in his case, that's what they did. And they made an example of him. They were busting him on every little tiny thing they could find in the end, like flying in the rain and little things that normally they're not going to bust you on. So just keep in mind that the best thing you can do is just comply, right? Their objective, and the FAA will tell you, their objective is to educate you, not to bust you, right? They have to deal with a lot of illegal flying and a lot of pilots who aren't certified. And so they've just taken this approach of let's try to educate people. They'll say to you, look, if you don't have your minimum of a trust or whatever, we're going to fine you X amount of dollars if you don't get this rectified by a certain date. They'll give you time to work with this. Okay. So my biggest piece of advice from all of this is simply comply with them. They want to work with you, right? They'll want to say, look, what you did here is illegal. What you did here is legal. I did get busted for an illegal flight initially a couple of years ago. They were good about it. They just said, you cannot do this, and here's why. And this is before I got all my, now I'm all compliant with waivers, and I just apply for everything and I do everything legally. But at that time, they did educate me on what I can and can't do. And they were good about it. They could have fined me, but they didn't. They just said, get that stuff offline. Get it off your social media. Don't do it again. And we're gonna just leave it at that, right? Because the FSDO that I mentioned a couple minutes ago, their job is to say, is this actionable? Is this person compliant? And do we still have a problem? And if we do, they're going to report that up to their next superior, and they are going to escalate that further. So don't do any of these things. Don't escalate, comply, and you'll be okay. And you'll learn about the rules and get a better understanding of what to do. So that's always my advice is comply, be open. Like when I'm out flying, I'm an open book. I have all of my stuff with me. I wear my vest. People bust me on wearing my vest like I'm going to attract attention. But the reality is I've found that wearing that high-vis vest has made my life a lot simpler. People believe you're there in a professional manner. They're less likely to approach you. And if they do, you simply tell them you're there in a professional manner. And if the police come by or the Secret Service or whoever, you can talk to them in a professional way as well. So that's my advice. Do with that what you will. All right. See ya.